Look I'm talking in circles. I'm on an island. I'm getting island fever now. I'm starting to lose my mind. This is an early sign of things to come. What we need to do now is get focused and stop pointing fingers. You're a problem. You're a real problem.
Some eons are a black hole of nothingness that just want to be isolated and left alone. Some eons want to eradicate all life in the galaxy and cause the biggest catastrophe, intergalactic cataclysm that we've ever seen. And some eons are just downright crazy. Eons are what make up the known galaxy and the world or worlds within Honkai Star Rail. They're very important metaphysical entities that represent a path or ideal. Did the path come before the eon or the eon of the path? As we've talked about in other videos, a concept exists long before this eon embodies it, like harmony, destruction, preservation. These are all concepts of the universe that existed long before this eon. So is this eon just a greater manifestation of people's desires for that path or concept? We're going to be breaking down all the eons within Honkai Star Rail, what they represent, the lore and backstory to these eons, the history, how certain individuals and their ideals, what they represent, because obviously we know that certain eons represent certain consistencies, like preservation's mostly shielding characters, the abundance is more for healing characters. You get the point. And I'll also be naming all of the known emanators for each path. So let's start with the first eon we actually see in Honkai Star Rail, Nanook, the eon of destruction, who cast their gaze onto the main character at the very beginning of the game. Nanook rose into eonhood around the time the Swarm disaster, the great battle of the galaxy, was starting to wrap up. Born from a world as it fell during the Swarm disaster, taking the appearance of a human male with a dark skin and golden eyes, and is the leader of a faction known as the Antimatter Legion, which appear to be the broad overarching villains and antagonists of the game. Nanook sees the creation of the universe as a mistake and seeks to destroy everything. After ascending into Eonhood, Nanook allegedly ignited his home world. Despite being the most recent ascended Eon, Nanook and his followers are considered some of the greatest threats in all of the galaxy. In present day, there are many emanators of the destruction, known as Lord Ravagers. Phantilia the Undying, who we defeated on the Lost Fu, Zephyro, Silanova, Iron Tomb, and Sun Devourer are some others. There are also ones that we have not heard about in-game yet. Nanook destroyed a white star named Fetora. The flames of the white star, concealed with the power of destruction, gave birth to plasmic life forms. The fire demon Ifrit, also known as Duke Inferno, was born and has been obsessed with destruction and slaughter since birth. The embers left behind from the star's destruction were collapsed, and Ifrit's own hands molded into the shape of Fetora's crown and worn to this day. Ifrit would later go on to establish and lead the Everflame Mansion, a group of the Annihilation Gang. Although they want to earn Nanook's gaze so badly, he could honestly care less about the Annihilation Gang and sees them as jokes and not taking destruction seriously, and doesn't think they truly embody destruction. Besides that, we know that the main MC is connected with Nanook in some way, but that is all we really know about this Eon for now. And next we have Tazeroth of Propagation, or as I like to call him, Tazeroth, who follows the path of being an ass. Should have known that if you make a giant bug in Eon, it's going to be a problem. This Eon was such a problem that a bunch of Eons had to gang up and murder his ass because he was literally trying to wipe out the entire galaxy by replicating himself. Was a horror of self-replication and was also regarded as the Imperator Insectorum, the Sand King, and the creator of the Swarm disaster. This path was ignited out of a desire born from loneliness. Tazeroth metamorphosized into a self-duplicating horror, a turret of infinite propagation, motivated by nothing but the need to procreate, duplicating itself over and over again, spreading across the universe. They were responsible for the rise of the Swarm and its eventual spread throughout the universe, taking the appearance of a large insect with 6 legs and 2 large wings on top of their head, and had one known emanator, Scaracabas. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Star Crusher Storm King, the boss battle we get on the Herta space station. This Emanator was a menace during the Swarm disaster. Powers directly inherited from Tazeroth, with its own death ray that could fragment crystal bodies and shatter stars. The one that we fight on the space station is a clone of the Emanator. The status of the original Emanator is unknown, and Rune May experimenting with this Emanator created a successful clone that we then had to destroy on the space station. As Tazeroth was duplicating himself and spreading across the galaxy, being a nightmare for everybody, Ouroboros and his insatiable hunger started eating all of his replications, and they started fighting. They did not get along, Ouroboros and Tazeroth. I don't know who just wanted to kill everyone first, but they started fighting, and this wiped out 2/3 of all life in the galaxy, which threw order and balance in the galaxy off, which Ina of Order started banding together eons. Ina of Order would actually recruit Klepoth and a bunch of others. Literally a bunch of eons band together. Aha, Akavili, Equilibrium, they all got together and put an end to this because it was just getting out of hand. Because the Trailblaze Eon was a part of this war as well, it was definitely quite some time ago. Preservation using their hammer to finish off propagation and stripping it of its power. Tazeroth's eonhood was short-lived. The ruin they caused, however, in the universe is what directly led to Nanook's ascension into eonhood. While we're talking about the Swarm's disaster, let's talk about Ouroboros, the voracity. Not much is known about this ancient eon that presides over voracity, the unsatisfied devourer of worlds. In the eyes of Ouroboros, life is flickering, fragment floating in the sea of the void, destined to return to the darkness along with the stars which birthed them. This darkness is within the depths of their mouths. One of, if not possibly, the most ancient and old eon. Maybe finality might be close because they can travel and move through time, but Ouroboros was a Leviathan. The Leviathans were this ancient creatures or species that roamed the galaxy before any eons were even around, just devouring things. And it is said during the Dusk Wars very long ago they were all wiped out, or most of them were. But Ouroboros was one of these Leviathans that ascended to eonhood and continued its thirst to devour things. At this current moment, Ouroboros is still alive, but it is unknown what factions actually follow this eon. Seen as that the all-devouring Narwhal from Genshin Impact seems to share this taste in devouring, I'd say he might be linked to Ouroboros, and Skirk might be as well, and although there is no known emanators of Ouroboros, I think Skirk is a possible candidate. Akavili, the Trailblaze Path, who the Nameless and Astral Express follow. We don't even know what this eon looks like, but this eon presides over the path of Trailblaze. They departed from the isolated world of Pegana and continued to trailblaze unknown frontiers. Their destiny came to an end unexpectedly. We do not even know where this eon has been or its fate, if it is deceased or in another world somewhere. This eon created the Astral Express to transport themselves and the Nameless across the galaxy. The creation of the Star Rail network connected distant galaxies together and facilitated communication between them. The remnants of these star tracks are still used by the IPC and the Zhenju Alliance today as safe routes. Of all known eons, Akavili was the coolest to mankind. They were recorded adventuring, fighting, and celebrating with mortals. This eon, however, disappeared mysteriously one day, leaving a group of loyal Nameless to carry on what they had started and continue their exploration of the unknown. The Astral Express eventually broke down and lay dormant for thousands of years before Himiko discovered and repaired it. The Stellarons cause problems for this travel between galaxies, which is why the Nameless take care of these situations. As of now, there are no known emanators of Akavili, the Trailblaze. Aha, that follows the path of elation, one of the strangest eons to ever preside in the galaxy. Different factions, the mourning actors and the masked fools. And as far as emanators that can draw this eon's power directly, Aha pretty much gives this power to whoever he feels like at the time, as he sees everything as a big joke and likes to pull pranks. He once gave a worm the ability to be an emanator before it eventually died. This eon is honestly like, I can't tell if he's a danger to the universe or not. And you can actually hear him laughing in the battle with Fantilia. No one can predict what this eon might express. Laughter enjoys the right of sentient beings, and Aha aspires their beliefs to delight in the joys of life. They take pleasure in the sharp turns of fate. Literally the definition of rolling with the punches, it is what it is. And everyone that follows this path really just embodies that, like Sparkle. Neither the dusty rocks nor the distant stars can fathom the humor that life entails, the irony within day-to-day trials. Life is a game of strategy. There are no winners and losers. Instead, a search for the kind of laughter that leaves one breathless will lead to the unexpected delights that uplift the soul towards divinity. One of the few eons that's actually relatively close with mortals, inspiring their believers to delight in the joys of life. This eon doesn't really possess earth-shattering powers like Lon of the Hunt and Klepoth of Preservation. This eon, however, does enjoy causing chaos through unpredictable means, making tiny changes and minor influences to living creatures. Besides making a worm an emanator for fun, Aha, masqueraded as a human, joined the Astral Express crew for over a year as an imposter, because we know that eons can take the shape of humans, and then blew up the Astral Express, which Pom Pom was not impressed. And although we don't know if Akavili is dead, he did not retaliate. Aha also assisted with taking down Tazeroth, but it is said that he might have assisted Shaipe, the Eon of Harmony, to absorb Ina, the Eon of Order. Pom Pom is the only member of the Astral Express that knows Aha's human identity firsthand. It also seems like this Eon has taken an interest in the Astral Express and what they're doing, following them around and just keeping tabs. Hence why we see his laughter while we're dealing with a Lord Ravager of Destruction. Besides that, I'm sure we'll see a lot more of this Eon toying with mortals, and I wonder if his path will become playable in the foreseeable future. One of the more interesting ones that's now deceased or assimilated, Ina, who represents the path of order. They were absorbed by Shaipe when Harmony ascended into Eonhood due to their colliding paths, which is weird how finality and destruction didn't collide as well. One of the most ancient eons, characterized as just a magnificent being that looks like a holy woman, being controlled like a puppet. The eye actually being the eon, controlling the puppet. As the design would suggest, this eon was a massive manipulator, observing the actions of mortals to ensure the order of the universe would be absolute, while displaying intolerance to any form of chaos or strife. Before their fall, their path had suppressed numerous calamities, such as the swarm disaster. Enna was actually the one that recruited Klepoth of Preservation to help deal with the swarm disaster in Tazeroth. They reached an agreement, and they recruited other eons as well to help, but Preservation would be the main one that Enna would actually recruit, and would deal the final blow to Tazeroth. Enna would also help deal with Ouroboros, although sometime between this was absorbed by Shaipe of Harmony while they ascended at this time, preventing the deal from coming across. Despite this, Klepoth fulfilled their part nonetheless of their deal, helping deal with the swarm disaster. So essentially, Enna of Order was absorbed by Shaipe of Harmony. But what does this mean exactly? Because eons represent a path. Do these paths die with the eon? No. You cannot kill the concept of destruction or evil, love, hope, harmony. All of these things are metaphysical concepts that the eons just represent. But can the eon itself manifest within another eon if it's absorbed? Honkai Star Rail has yet to explore this concept, although I think with Penacone, something's going on here with Harmony where we see little snippets of order starting to manifest. Is this because order can manifest within Harmony, or Harmony can draw order within itself? The planets and galaxies that adhered to Ina's followed very strict rules, and many calamities hindered by their guardianship, being extremely efficient at dealing with problems and developing civilization among diverse planets. However, civilizations are said to have eventually hit rock bottom under the Eon of Order. Worshipped Order would shine briefly before their total collapse, perhaps trying to maintain order too strictly. This would be a good time to talk about Shaipe of Harmony, colorful humanoid-looking eon with 3 faces and puzzle pieces in its design, and no known emanators of this path, although it could be assumed that one of the family members, Sunday or even Robin, might just be an emanator of Harmony, an eon that hails from multiple harmonious celestial worlds. They preside over the path of Harmony. They are the amalgamation of thousands of entities that preach the joy of human harmony and unity, and is currently the main focus point of our current chapter in Star Rail Penacony. When Xipe was ascending into Eonhood around the same time Nanook was, around the end of the Swarm disaster, a disaster that ironically Ina of Order helped prevent and was a pivotal point in saving the universe, they actually absorbed Ina of Order when the former ascended into Eonhood due to their colliding paths, nearing the end of this disaster. It's left incredibly ambiguous, however, what exactly occurred, and it is suggested that Aha actually might have assisted Harmony in doing this, perhaps some funny prank to get humor in his jollies out of this, or maybe there's something more going on. Can you completely kill an Aeon and its ideology? Because order must still exist. Hopefully Star Rail explores this further with Penacony, but Harmony is definitely the main focal point of this chapter. Aha seems to be present with the mass fools in Penacony as well, playing a key role. Penacony used to be a prison planet where the IPC put prisoners, but the memoria of this planet created a cohesive dreamlike world among the inmates, creating the dreamscape and the prisoners' collective dream of being free and harmony. This attracted the Aeon of Harmony, and they would eventually take over Penacony, and then the family within Penacony would be established by the descendants of those prisoners over time, composed of various civilizations and members from all around the galaxy. IX of Nihility, an Aeon that presides over the path of Nihility, their existence is a mystery, resembling a giant black hole void with two white dots as eyes. This Aeon does not interact with other Aeons, Emanators, or even mortals. They believe that the ultimate fate of the multiverse is nothingness, emptiness, and just absolutely worthless. I guess you could say the embodiment of depression, believing that existence is absolutely meaningless. Just being near this Aeon can make you feel dejected and just downright miserable. One of the more mysterious Aeons of the universe that even the Genius Society can't quite put their finger on. And not much is really known about this Aeon other than the creation of the Self-Annihilators, being who have entered the shadow of IX, and from that moment have lost all meaning of their existence, like Acheron, who is an emanator of IX, who lost her home planet, everyone she knew, and lost the meaning of her own existence, which probably allowed her to tap into IX's power directly, seen as that IX doesn't actually interact or bless people with its power directly. It doesn't interact with nothing. So if you become an emanator of IX, it has to be just very coincidental. Self-Annihilators aimlessly travel the cosmos. They are also casting the shadow of the Aeon around the universe. As for the few who can single-handedly withstand the encroachment of nihility on their existence, their journey of self-annihilation is drawn out to infinity, and the road they walk is like a shadow of IX cast in the world. Out of the dozen or so Aeons that we actually know, like Terminus or Aha, they're obviously very enigmatic and odd. Mythos and Foley are mysterious, but IX and Nihility is both odd and mysterious. The Annihilation gang that so badly wants Nanook of Destruction to notice them tried to assassinate Nihility and Nix, but they failed, thinking that this Aeon would be easy to handle because the Aeon is peaceful and thinks there's no purpose to the universe or life. So a branch of the Annihilation gang tried to actually assassinate IX with the help of an Aeon, that Aeon being Aha. Aha thought it would be hilarious for these mortals to try and kill IX, so they assisted and gave some of their powers, and thought the outcome was hilarious. I'm telling you, this Aeon is crazy, pretty much egging on mortals to send them to their doom, trying to assassinate the Aeon and egging them on. This Aeon is crazy, I'm telling you. But it's also hilarious. But overall, not much else is known about IX. I'm sure we'll learn a lot more through Acheron. The endless black hole energy that is IX, it seems that only individuals that have truly embodied despair can tap into its full powers. And that power so far seems limitless. Just like the design suggests, an infinite black hole of nothingness. Maybe there's a really good reason that this Aeon isolates itself fully. The Aeon of remembrance. Intellectual equals existence, thus memory is the evidence of existence. The Aeon that presides over the path of remembrance records all that has been forgotten and perhaps for the rebirth of the universe in preparation. If the universe is ever destroyed, we must remember what was. It is said that every single memo keeper is a emanator of remembrance, selflessly preserving every fact and every enchanting gesture. It is a river formed from conscious life, a treasure built up out of the eternal wisdom. Fully is the fish that swims back upstream and is the key to this treasure's vault. They sit in the center of the sanctuary, silently watching as the world tirelessly repeat the same mistakes over and over again. Rinse and repeat, destruction and rebirth. Fully will make sure that all of history is remembered. Nobody in the entire Genius Society or the IPC and Intelligentsia Guild knows when they were even born. Eon of Remembrance has quietly remained in the universe. Fully rarely presents itself before mortals, and according to very few footages they have of Fully, this Eon resembles a humanoid figure carved out of crystal, with unrecognizable facial features. And two main factions follow this Eon, the Garden of Recollection, a faction that worships Fully, and Messengers of the Remembrance, the same faction that Black Swan is from. They surrender their worldly bodies and traverse the universe in the form of memories. Their goal is to search the stars on Fully's behalf to find the most precious memories, to make sure the universe is remembered in the face of destruction. And the Cremators are said to be memo keepers like Black Swan, but have gone rogue, very much like the Constants of Delia from the Everflame Mansion possibly. The Cremators believe that they bear the sacred duty of fulfilling memories from the eons. The Cremators are said to have stolen those memories from the memo keepers, have gathered for Fully and ranked them in order of importance. The ones they deem unworthy are completely destroyed, never to be found again, which is a big no-no for trying to collect memories and preserve the universe's memory. The Galaxy Rangers are said to have tried to track down some of these stolen memories. Lon, an eon that presides over the path of the hunt. They wander endlessly between worlds to eradicate the abominations created by the Eon of Abundance. Lon, also known as the Rainbow Arbiter, or God of the Skybow. The cost of the hunt was never a consideration for Lon. There is often no difference between the salvation they offer and total destruction. And this Eon actually harbors an intense hatred towards Yaoshi of Abundance and the undead abominations created by them. They tirelessly hunt them down, driven by the devastation that the Abundance caused their homeland. In contrast with the other Eons, Lon pays no close attention to mortals. They often appear before mortals but move too fast to be seen. The few that have caught a glimpse describe him as being a tall, royal centaur-like feature. Despite this Eon hating the Abundance, essentially the path of the hunt is to seek and destroy evil regardless of the cost, even if that cost is absolutely terrible as a result. Unlike destruction that just wants to destroy everything, there is judgment within the hunt. This Eon has accepted the Zhenzhou natives and the Foxians as allies due to their desires to turn away from the Wanton's propagation and what they deem as a curse of immortality. But Lon will freely destroy other Abundance races that genuinely embrace the Abundance and use it for selfish benefits. So it seems like much less just strict Abundance association and more so if you cross Lon's values that make you an acceptable target. In addition to the Abundance, which is why the hunt rose to Eonhood in the first place as its target, Lon has also designated Nanook, the Destruction, as a secondary target for the hunt as well as the Antimatter Legion. The Galaxy Rangers, a known faction, accepted followers of the hunt, and they travel the cosmos apparently acting like superheroes of justice in general, which is probably a very gray area. We know that Acheron infiltrated this group, but was a fraud. She never followed the hunt, as we learned. She is an emanator of nihility, and we have a Galaxy Ranger headed to Penacony right now, Boot Hill. So to summarize, Lon of the Hunt targets what he deems necessary in justice, but is not mindful of collateral damage. I don't think it goes out of its way to cause collateral damage, but anything to do with the Abundance or destruction or what it deems necessary. If you just happen to be in the vicinity or in the way, you might get caught in the crosshairs. In even more simplistic terms, Yaoshi of Abundance ended up destroying Lon's home planet, so Lon ascended to Eonhood literally just so he could hunt down and destroy all of them. Gives new meaning to the word hunt, which we'll now talk about Yaoshi of Abundance. This Eon is known as the nurturer of all beings and the Eon of Paradise. Their aim is the continuation of life. One of the more creepy designs, if you ask me, described as a figure with 6 arms and a scorpion-like hooked tail, having antlers resembling branches sprouting from their head and slits of red eyes all along their body. By the Foxian culture, Yaoshi was described wielding a staff. This Eon did not exist during the Swarm disaster. The Xiaozhou Alliance took a long voyage and embarked on a journey to seek out Yaoshi for immortality. The ancestors of the Luofu people ate its fruits and became long-lived species. However, this came with a heavy price. What followed was the population expansion and diminishing resources, and countless atrocities were committed. Those who survived the war realized they were susceptible to Mara, a condition long-lived species suffer, turning them into beasts, and began to resent this immortality. This eon is also said to be benevolent in nature, and led them to grant their blessing upon anyone who seeks immortality. However, the consequences of these blessings often result in the fate worse than death, being turned into some horrific monsters and stuff, which caused a lot of headaches, and ultimately was the catalyst to Lon taking revenge for his home planet being destroyed and rising to Eonhood himself. Like I said at the beginning of the video, Eons represent their ideology and what they manifested into. Nanook doesn't destroy because he loves destruction, but that's who he is. It's not out of some personal vendetta, they just embody what they represent to the fullest, and Yaoshi is no different. She creates life and cares only about creation of life, abundant, without any consideration or limit. She isn't concerned about peace or happiness, just her true nature like any Eon. The true nature of abundance is not peaceful ideology, like a peaceful meadow, but more like a tangled growth of vines choking out all other life. That's not to say that the Xianzhou are in the right either. Like any Eon, they seem to be extreme in their ideology, that's the point. Whether it be good or bad, the abominations of abundance are a legitimate threat, and their blessings they seemed from the Eon of abundance truly did tear their civilization apart. They too tend to be extreme. Look at Lon and his path for justice, and Hunt. The blessings gave from the Eon of Abundance truly did tear apart civilizations. The conflict between the Hunt and Abundance is very gray. It isn't black or white. Both Eons are extreme in their ideologies and just follow their nature. The Xianzhou may have suffered from these abominations, but the Hunt will eliminate their targets no matter their collateral damage, as these two are mortal enemies. So it makes sense to talk about them together. I guess a good simple metaphor is like water. Drinking water is good for you, and this Eon gives out water whoever needs it. But obviously moderation is the key here, and this Eon doesn't know moderation because it's not for good or evil. They just give it out. The Eon of Erudition, an astral supercomputer rumored to be created by Xandar prior to their ascension into Eonhood. None can comprehend their intentions, location, or normal state. A machine intelligence that has been upgraded into Eonhood, calculating the essence of the universe. Not known to provide solutions, all they offer is an infinite number of questions. And visiting this Eon is enough to open the eyes of even the most ignorant people. But answers can only be discovered by yourself. This Eon takes the shape of a humanoid robotic head with ripped cables and red lights implanted on the side of their head. It is said that this supercomputer was created by the first member of the Genius Society, Xandar. It was bestowed with the task of seeking the answers to the universe. Obviously, the Genius Society have close connections with this Eon, but the Intelligentsia Guild that pursued wisdom and information. Erudition is the quality of having and showing great knowledge, learning, or scholarship, which makes sense when you see who follows the path. People that are obsessed with research for the sake of research, to obsessively seek the ultimate truth of everything despite it being unknowable. The secrets of the universe. This senseless pursuit is what causes this Eons to gaze upon them. No doubt Albert Einstein or Stephen Hawking would definitely impress the hell out of this Eon. This Eon, in my opinion, truly just embodies like human persistence of knowledge and understanding, manifesting into a literal Eon divinative godlike being. A shocking discovery in one of the logs, though, is that I don't know how I can describe the kind of shock I had when I confirmed this discovery. Every step we took were within the simulated calculations of this Eon, as if they were the ones that were the architect behind the simulated universe, and we were the data instead. So is Herta an emanator of this Eon, using its power to create the simulated universe for data, or is this Eon using them as data? Or maybe both. Just interesting, but I have no reason to believe this Eon to be hostile in any way. I think information is all it seeks, and individuals that are like that as well. Klepoth, who presides over the path of preservation. This Eon takes the shape of a giant stone statue or golem, a humanoid made of rocks and minerals with a halo on their head, and is known as the Amber Lord. by its followers. This is one of the oldest eons known, and the Amber Lord is known for their indifference. This eon strives to isolate contact between planets, and usually only share their power with zealots. Despite the IPC being the main faction that's aligned with this eon, the IPC goes against the desires of the eon, facilitating civilized trade and contact between the stars. It is said that long ago, this eon, Claypoth, ascended to become the Eon of Preservation during the Dusk Wars, pledging to construct walls tirelessly to defend the universe against the Leviathans, no doubt associated with Ouroboros. During the Swarm disaster, Anna of Order sent an invitation to Preservation. They reached an agreement, and this eon promised to aid all the other eons against Tazeroth and the Swarm, and although Ina of Order was absorbed by Harmony, Preservation would hold its end of the bargain. With the same hammer Preservation used for constructing these barriers, they began to dilute Tazeroth's form. As Aha and Harmony watched, Claypoth stripped Tazeroth of their broken shell body and heart as their blood and primordial eggs spilled all over the ground, further diluting their power. After being reduced to fragments, Claypoth sealed Tazeroth's remains into separate pieces of amber, and most recently during the battle with Cocolia, when the Trailblazer drew Alisaran's lance, Claypoth gazed at the Trailblazer and swung their hammer. Thus, the Trailblazer acquired the Path of Preservation and managed to defeat Cocolia. The architects on Jarilo 6 and in Belobog were worshippers of this eon and had already been on the planet constructing walls and fortresses in imitation of their god to avoid the eternal freeze and try to survive. As for Emanators of Preservation, Diamond of the IPC, leader of the Stonehearts, and other members of the IPC that we do not know, as well as Taravan Kane, who is a P-48 rank head of the Material Logistics Department, and one of the 7 board of directors in the IPC, Diamond being ranked P-47 and is the head and founder and leader of the 10 Stonehearts. Being that he's an Emanator of Preservation, he is the one that gifted each member of the Stonehearts a cornerstone, like we've seen with Aventurine, Topaz. No doubt that Preservation will play a huge role in the upcoming events in the future of Honkai Star Rail, but now let's talk about the Path of Equilibrium and the Eon Ho-Oh. Not Ho-Oh, but Ho-Oh. Their emanators influence the world superstitiously, trying to achieve the ideal balance. Who would have thought equilibrium and balance? As for emanators of this path, it is said that the arbiters, but unspecified who. The chain of karma that mortals obsess over is nothing but a rough approximation of the complication behind all things. This eon dissolved their will into the web of logic behind the universe's movement, maintaining the balance and stability of all things in perpetuity. Adventurous mortals tirelessly seek out flaws in the system, believing their intellect to be superior to that of an eon. However, little could they imagine that they have already been reduced to strings inside a surveillance system unable to escape the complicated network woven by Ho-Oh. Something that I wondered at first was why this eon and Order didn't collide and why Order collided with Harmony instead, because equilibrium and Order kind of sounds similar, but when I think about it more, Order was basically maintaining peace by force, maintaining a stable state, whereas equilibrium is equal parts positive and negative. It doesn't matter if there is chaos, as long as there is an equal amount of order, whereas Order applies less about balance and more about regularity being maintained, and that Harmony implies a coexistence, which seems to be a higher concept of order and equilibrium, good or evil, because good and evil has to exist simultaneously within the cosmos. That's just the nature of this world, or any world. So I guess in short, Ina is more of a lawful nature, whereas Ho-Oh is true nature. To be honest, I don't know how this eon would ever be assimilated or absorbed. Equilibrium, balance, is a concept that has to exist in the known universe. Also, it is said that this eon doesn't have a physical body that anyone's ever seen, so it's hard to say, but that's all we really know about this eon. Idrilla, the eon that presided over beauty, but has now disappeared. It is said that their looks vary depending on who saw them, showing the person who the beholder found the most beautiful, which sounds actually very fitting. but I wonder where they went missing, was born after having observed the ultimate meaning of the world's existence of that beauty, but regarding their disappearance. Some believe this eon to be killed or destroyed, whereas the Knights of Beauty believe that this eon still exists somewhere in the universe. And there are two main factions that follow this eon to this day: the Mirror Holders and the Knights of Beauty. This group is extremely self-disciplined and abide by a code of chivalry. They believe that only through a perfectly refined body, mind, and spirit can they become truly worthy of worshipping the Eon of Beauty. The source of their power is unknown. This group is constantly trying to revive the allegedly deceased Eon of Beauty. The Mirror Holders believe that the downfall of their Eon of Beauty was an ancient metaphor symbolizing and shattering people's views on beauty, crumbling like a collapsed tower into rubble that they worship. They believe that the Eon that they worship will be perfect and complete once again, and the universe will become whole. And as for emanators of this path, apparently some unknown members of this Mirror Holders group are self-proclaimed emanators, but none that we know. And then we have Mythos, one of the most mysterious eons, who presides over the path of the enigmata. They believe that the things in themselves are beyond perception, and it is said that this eon is a direct rival to challenge news of erudition, regardless of the consequences. They conjure the fog of thought and the rain of sensation, which actually makes sense when you think about this eon represents research, intelligence, and seeking more knowledge. Mythos was actually born in the Remembrance, in a simulated universe Gold and Gears, when the Trailblazer attempts to investigate the Eden of Blessing Insight, the realm of Fully, the Remembrance. Mythos appears and pulls them away. This has got to be one of the weirdest eons, and Mythos sort of exists to counter erudition. This eon is closely linked to news of erudition and the Genius Society, because before becoming an eon, Mythos was an emanator of erudition. At some point in its life, a major incident occurred that led it to reject the path of erudition, eventually ascending into eonhood, sort of similar to Lant and his hatred for the abundance. But in this case, Mythos is a very close rival and is always trying to challenge erudition. The true details of the incident have been hidden by the history fictionalists, and his existence in the Genius Society was covered up by fabricating the story of an assassination. Main factions that follow this eon are the Riddlers and history fictionologists, dedicated to the mystification of history. The Riddlers are devoted to undermining the clarity of languages. They deconstruct texts, create metaphors, alter the words' orders, and tamper with definitions, so to make things unrecognizable in ordinary phrase languages. So basically, to take things in history and knowledge and mash them up to make them more hard to decipher and understand. As for Pathstriders of the Enigmata, just some unnamed members of the history fictionologists. Terminus, that presides over the path of finality. An eon that moves backwards in time, murmuring a prophecy that is destined to be fulfilled. And his main faction that follows his path are the Omen Vanguards, also the Creed Exque. The word terminus refers to the final point in the space-time. There is literally almost nothing known about this eon, but it is said that people find it very confusing that this eon wasn't assimilated by destruction, seeing as that this eon, finality and destruction, kind of coincide and cross paths, similar to order and harmony. One was absorbed by the other. So why is finality still around? Why does finality and destruction still exist? Even members of the Genius Society and the Intelligentsia Guild find this very confusing. The Omen Vanguards being a group that believe that Terminus represents the end of the universe, so they have dedicated to drawing prophecies from Terminus' obscure words. And the Creed Exque is just a group of people who worship this eon and await their once-in-a-lifetime encounter, whatever that means. Besides that, we do not know what this eon looks like, any emanators or who's really associated with this eon, but I do think that they'll have a big part to play in much later chapters. But I find it interesting that they say that this eon is traveling backwards in time. They come from a set point in time from the future. And when would this eon have ascended into eonhood if they can go through time? At what point in time did this happen? Did this happen in the future or the past? What will they do after reaching the beginning of the universe? There's a lot of questions that go with this eon. Perhaps this eon was a mortal who has witnessed a calamity so great that they caused the end of all things, civilizations, universes, and eons, until there was nothing left. maybe wanting to prevent such a future for the sake of sharing their sadness, they ascended into eonhood, and this would make Terminus the youngest and the final eon to ascend before they start traveling backwards in time, before becoming the oldest and the first eon to exist. And if this eon is traveling back in time, and keeps encountering a younger version of the universe, then Terminus's past would be his future, and his future is the past. This eon must know the entire events of Honkai Star Rail already. It is crazy to think when this eon will actually come up in the game. I think the sky, it's literally limitless when you're talking about time travel. Either way, I'm very intrigued. And then that brings us to Long. Long, who represents permanence and was the progenitor of all dragons, known to traverse the universe an untold number of eras ago, with the primary goal of seeking the meaning of life itself. At the end of their life, they found their answer, and it became known as the revelation of the permanence. So this eon is the ancestor of all dragons. I wondered if Long paid a visit to Teyvat, but did this eon actually die, or was it absorbed? Because Long of permanence could overlap with abundance or even preservation. And one of the things that this eon was known is for the role of creation of science and interpretation of immortality, the revelation of the permanence. I'm really wondering if this eon is connected to Teyvat at all, seeing as that was a world inhabited by solely dragons and the Dragon King. It is said that this eon is deceased prior to any game events. But what actually happened to this eon? Was it absorbed? And with that, that is every eon that we know in Honkai Star Rail as of right now. I don't know if any more will actually be introduced or not, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. Which eon is your favorite? What you think? Like and subscribe to help grow the channel. I really do appreciate y'all watching this far, and as always, we will see you all in the next one. Later.